Right now, you might be thinking, it's the start of the match, you know, regular old survival games. We'll just run to the middle, grab what we can, and head out. Pretty simple, not that much to it, not that important, right? You are wrong. Contrary to popular belief, the beginning of any survival games match is one of the most important parts of the game. In fact, I find that at least a third of the people in the game die from playing the Cornucopia Rush poorly. So obviously, this part of the game is one that you have to take caution of. One of the times you have to think seriously. And if you don't, well, you're likely to end up as the unfortunate one-third. Now here I will slowly explain the complex thought process occurring during the game start countdown. And you have a lot to do during these short 15 seconds. First, I take a quick glance at the Cornucopia chests and see which ones I might go for. Then it's a good idea to look at the other players around you. See here, Fluffy Pants 1010 and Bana 7432 both like they're going to run away from the corn. When people look like they're going to run away from the corn, consider going for the chests in the Cornucopia that they might have otherwise gone for. Therefore, I go and open the chests that Bana 7432 would have gone to. Of course, there will probably still be other people who go to the same chest as you, like this loser, Teddy1424. And might I add, the longer you stay near corn, the higher your chances of dying are. The guy I kill here, you might think he had no way of escaping death. And you're probably right. So if you find you're often being targeted off spawn, you're often being killed early, just go far out straight away. Do not go for the Cornucopia. Here a person on my left is missing, so think of that as one less person who you have to compete against for the chest loot. Meaning going to the Cornucopia has a higher chance of being the better play. I look around and see almost everyone near me is going for the Cornucopia. I also see no nearby chest behind me. But remember, even if there is a chest right beside you, you still have to consider going for the Cornucopia. If you didn't know, the Cornucopia contains exclusive loot, such as iron gear and diamonds. Chests out in the map never have that kind of loot, except for the supply dropper. That's why the Cornucopia is so desirable. So you have to weigh the factors when you want to go to the corn. So the pros are, Cornucopia chests are good, that's always. The person beside me is missing, that only sometimes happens. And there's no chest in the wild behind me, and that only sometimes happens too. And the cons, everyone else around me is going for the Cornucopia too. That sometimes happens. Only 2 chests are available to me, the one like directly in front of me and the one a little to the left. That sometimes happens. Now weigh the pros and cons against each other. You're not only counting how many pros versus how many cons there are, but the value of each pro and con individually. I think here that the potential loot of the Cornucopia chests is good enough for me to risk going for it. I tried to make that diagonal parkour jump, but I missed a jump frame. I don't know if it's actually possible, so don't try that. Here I go back into the Cornucopia to express how risky it is to fight at the Cornucopia early game, to even stick around. Fighting at the Cornucopia right off the bat is good for one thing and one thing only, getting a kill and dying. Because the high majority of the time, you're going to be hitting someone who really doesn't have anything you need or want, and then someone's going to capitalize on your fight and kill you. So even if someone has something you want, just follow them as they leave the Cornucopia, then kill them when you're a good distance away. Alright, first we exercise the basic strategies, take things into consideration. There is one chest far behind me over there, and a closer chest over there. But that chest is closer to those other people, so if I go to corn, it will be unlikely that I reach that chest before anyone else does. Therefore, the first chest I saw is a better option. See, it's not like you can only choose between Cornucopia and Wilderness chests. When you see nearby Wilderness chests, you can attempt to get corn loot, and then route your way back to the Wilderness you saw in game start countdown. Or vice versa, you can get the Wilderness chest first, and then go to the corn, although this method is awful, and I'd rarely recommend it, you get no corn loot. So it looks like everyone's going to corn here. I'll show you another Cornucopia method. If you know that there exist chests that are slightly hidden from plain sight, try going for those ones. Such as this one like kind of on the ceiling. I get this one all to myself even though the loot's not great. Also, here's a perfect example of what you have to watch out for in the Cornucopia. TNT. That's why it's dangerous to be taking your time while looting. But even if you're fast, still watch out for the TNT. It deals extremely high damage. Also, on the contrary, if you get TNT from a Cornucopia chest, I recommend against throwing it right away, right in the middle of the court. Sure, there are those beautiful moments when it kills like 5 people and everyone in chat goes insane, but realistically, the loot you get from other players is not going to be excellent, and you might not get it all even. Save the TNT for later in the game, because TNT is incredibly useful in many other situations, both offensive and defensive. In Riverton Castle, I will rarely ever go for the Cornucopia, because in theory there are 3 players going for each chest. 24 players divided by 8 chests equals 3 players per chest. I recommend only going for chests that have, at maximum, 1 other player going for it. 3 players exceeds that limit. So I often like to open chests behind the doors near Cornucopia, or better yet, just run straight out and loot in the far wild. But here I did go for Cornucopia, and this is the thought process. I'm one of the lucky players who gets to choose between one of two chests. If I open this chest, these two guys might go for it. If I open this chest, these two guys might go for it. However, if I get lucky, it can occur that the contesting players on the far sides of me will go for their other chest. Anyway, on my right, the people look aware. Of the information you can gather, that's about it. I can't read minds. But on my left, it seems my teammate is AFK or dead. He's staring in the same direction he spawned and doesn't move. And there's a Steve on my left side too. It's a rough assumption that players with a Steve or Alex skin are inexperienced. Not always true, but stereotypes come from something, so following them at least in Minecraft can make sense. So I decide, hell, let's go for it. With a Steve and an AFK guy, it could be that I get the chest all to myself. I get an iron helmet, fishing rod, pretty good. Turns out my teammate was dead or something. He just quit when the game started. If you have a gigantic thing blocking your path to the cornucopia, like it's really a major issue, just use common sense. Don't go for the corn. This happens often on maps such as Primal, Kikoshi Islands, and Fantasyland, which is this map. Fallout has a spawn glitch where like 5 players will spawn on the pad of another player, leaving 5 pads empty in a row and 5 other pads in a row full. You can capitalize on this by opening the chest on the empty pad side. Even if you got screwed and you're the unfortunate player who's with the extra people, you can still cross over to the other side and get your goods. It's harder, but you can do it. Also, use F5 when you're with an extra player. Jumping with first person is much less effective. In this clip, I don't actually capitalize on the empty player side. I instead attempt the hidden chest strategy. The chests on the ground are less likely to be opened by other players, so that's why I went for it.